Okay, so we believe in copyright. Sorry, I'm trying the gluten-free thing. We believe in copyright, so whatever you hear, just copy it, right? So there's no monopoly on knowledge, on ideas. So a lot of times people are the same thing. So who'd be courageous enough to share a few things of what they said in the different areas? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So for business,
Yeah.
quadruple business that I'm currently experiencing right now.
Okay. So it'd be nice for you, just learning, to be as specific as possible. You may not want to say it, but be specific about the number.
The number.
Yes. So when you're specific about the number and you declare it, the world comes and helps you do that.
Absolutely.
So just say quadruple.
Yes.
Just say
The number.
this. What's the number?
800,000.
Okay. Cool. All right. Good. Go on.
Okay. And then for money, I put quadruple my income.
So be specific again about that number.
Okay. So
whether that's a net worth thing or whether that's an income thing. Or,
GCI 800.
yeah. Okay. Good.
For health, lose 15 pounds.
Okay.
And personal, buy vacation home.
Buy a vacation home. Yeah. Where?
Somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't know.
Okay. So it's nice to be specific, whether you're thinking about
Barbados
or Antigua or Jamaica, Curacao, Turks, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. It's good to have that as specific.
Yeah.
Okay. We want you to be specific. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Because she was so courageous and she first started off, on the count of 2, we're going to give her a 2 clap. 1, 2. All right. So who else would like to share? One more one before we get into it. Yes.
I said I'd like to do at least $10 million in sales.
Okay.
With 300 people in my database for business.
Great.
And start to focus on developing a team. On the money side, I'd like to do at least $250,000 worth of commission.
Yep.
On the health side, I want to be absolutely smokeless.
Okay. Yes.
And on the fourth item, it was have some investment properties.
Right. Good for you. That's great. Let's give him a hand on the count of 2. Give him a 2 clap. 1, 2. All right. So for you guys that weren't here, that was the bonus round before we started. So what I did, just to review for them, the exercises I did, and you may want to do this as part of your homework, is that I basically said, if we're 12 months from today, I know this is the 3rd, but December 1st, 2020, I asked you to put business, money, health, and then one other area of your life that you could identify. So whether that was relationships, whether that was spiritual, whether that was another area of your life, family. I asked the question, what would have to happen by December 1st of 2020, 12 months from now, that if these things happen and up to 3, that if they happened, you'd look at that area of your life and say, awesome, awesome. So that's the exercise. So I want you to start thinking about that at the end of every year, or even mid-year, or even now, or even on a monthly basis. What would have to happen? And start with 1, and then go build on that. But what's the one thing that would have to happen? I'm not asking you to answer it right now, but think about that. What's the one thing, if it happened within 12 months from now, that you would say, awesome, and it would put your life on a different trajectory? Think about that. Now, why am I getting you to think about that? Why am I getting you to think about that?
Lead gen will take you there.
Good, right? That would be one, because lead gen would take you there. Why is that? Why is that?
Only when it's a specific goal
Mm-hmm.
and it's written down.
Okay.
And it's more likely that you will achieve it.
Right. So we're already in the class right now. I've already brought you into the matrix, okay? By starting you with this, okay? And so what you have to understand is that this is you, okay? And this is you, and this is you now, okay? Now when we look at the continuum of life, okay, so let's say that X is going to be the number of years that you're on this earth, okay? And so that's the one thing that we know for sure, regardless of whatever spiritual background, religion, whatever thought you have, what ethnicity, whatever, we know one thing, there's a start and an end point to our life. And right now is a moment. But when we look at the continuum, what's larger than your now? What's larger than your now?
Your future?
Your future. Okay, great. So we'll call that Y. And what's also larger than your now?
Past.
Your past, and we'll call that Z. So right now, which is actually a bigger part of your life?
Past.
Yes. So when we look at this, this has got a very big circle around it. Right? And your now is just a little sliver right now. So what happens is that, do you ever wonder, I don't know about you, but I kind of said that I wasn't going to become like my parents. And the more that I'm getting older, I'm just becoming just like my dad and just like my mom. How many people are courageous enough to kind of say that and think that, right? Okay, that's just a self-awareness thing. I'm not saying that, so the reason is because our past is always overlaying our now. So as much as we say change, as much as we say grow, and I find this a really interesting concept. How many people actually want real growth of themselves personally? How many people would say that? Okay, so here's what I'm going to say to you. Growth is painful, and we know that. However, the area that you need to grow in, you actually think you're right in it right now. See, when you say, well, what do you mean, Sonny? Well, one of the areas that you actually need to grow in, whatever that growth is, it's because you actually think you're right in it, and it's okay. Because if it wasn't, so for you, growth is this academic or mental exercises of that I want to grow, but actually what it is, it's you calling yourself out in an area that maybe worked in the past, but it's not working anymore. Or you're comfortable in that and you just want to stay that way. So really, if you're committed to growth, you're committed to outing yourself about the way you're thinking about something. Does that make any sense? Because if then it's not growth. Because, oh, well, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. Or, like, why would I change that? Or that's that. So then you're not really growing. Growth really means you taking on yourself around how you're viewing something that's actually may have been an enabler, but it's now become a limitation for you. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
So the reason is because your past is so big and it's overlaying your present. So how do we get out of this loop? Now, I love the fact that what my parents have given me, and I love the values, and I love the stuff, and I love the teachings and all of the things that I've gotten from that. But I really don't want to end up like my parents. I want to end up a better version. So if my parents made me 1.0, don't you think it would be better if I ended up version 2.0? Because I think the world deserves that. So I think the best version of yourself is still yet to come. That's the way you have to think about that. So what's going to change that for you? Yes?
Action.
Action? Yes?
Change.
Change, but what's going to propel that?
Reflection?
Reflection, partly. You're getting there.
Courage.
Huh? Mindset? So what's gonna change that mindset?
Understanding why you're doing it.
Understanding why you're doing it? But what's all that connected to? Look back to here.
The reason why you're doing it.
What's the missing piece here? See, the reason I asked you this question is because it's here. See, right now, your future vision of yourself is only this big. Your future is only this big. It's not as big as your past. So your past is always going to win over what your future vision is. So what you need to do is you need to create your future vision bigger in all of the areas of your life, because that's what's going to push you forward to the programming. Your future vision is not big enough, and I don't care about what stage of life you're at. You still need to make your vision, what am I looking forward, what am I creating? And what you're going to find is that inevitably, when you start asking yourself, in 1 year from now, in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now, what am I going to look back and say, if I created that? Awesome. That is what's going to propel you into your now, into creating this. Otherwise, you're going to loop back into who you were all the time. So your vision's not big enough. So part of that is you have to have small anchors. So what are your small anchors? Now, these anchors are obligations sometimes, but they're anchors. For me, it's these two people. Those are my kids, right? That's Devin and that's Sahara. It's like, it's the best thing in my world. Now, I get that for you who have kids, who don't have kids, but the fact is that, what is my vision? My vision is that I had the best time. You see, it's not about what I do 24 hours a day with them. It's what we do in moments. So your vision and your life happens in moments, just like your now is happening in moments. Like we're having a moment right now. But now we're having another moment. And now we're having another moment. So what happens is that my moments with him are around going to Raptors game. I took him to Barcelona. We went to see Lionel Messi play, in the stadium. For Sahara, it's all around me holding her. She's very cuddly. We talk. She talks my ear off. For him, it's about doing, right? So my whole moments are about what can I do to create that as the bigger thing. Now, they don't have to be running businesses. They don't have to do this. They don't have to do any of those things. But why is that pushing me? So that's one aspect of my life that you have to understand that I have a bigger vision for, right? And I live that every day. I'm here today in service of them because what I'm creating today is going to actually help them create some bigger things. But what I want to do is I want to spend some time, because the lead generation seminar that I'm going to spend an hour and a half or 2 hours, will be done here by 3:30, is we're going to get done that stuff in less than an hour. But I want to challenge you, because I find that right now what most people need is they need this form of therapy. Okay, so you want to talk about that? Can we talk about that? Okay, so tell me what's been coming up for you since I've just been saying these things. Share any ahas or any thoughts that you have.
Well, I think the big circle, and even in what you're saying and in your...
Sorry, I'm just going to take my jacket off. It's
Sure.
hot. Sorry.
You
Go
got
ahead.
it toasting.
Yeah, no. That big circle, and it may be true for most of us in the room, is that it gets bigger based on emotion. Because this is a lot of emotion that's driving that big circle to be bigger, right?
It's part of it, but I think part of you have to understand is that this is also an intellectual exercise to ask me, what do I want to see my life as? What am I working towards? Like, if you're not working towards something, if you're not working towards having some stuff in your spiritual life, in your personal health, in your family, in how you live, in your relationships, then unfortunately what's going to happen, the past is going to take over. And I assure you, there's a lot of programming that happened in your past that will allow you to be who you want to be and stay who you want to be. And I'm not sure that that's really serving you the best way.
I find there's a lot of excuses,
Mm-hmm.
just self-excuses,
Right.
and maybe fear of getting to that bigger future. I don't know. Feels like I can't do this. At least
Right.
that mental
Oh, and where do you think that comes from?
past, for sure.
Okay.
Other people, the community at large, like we can't do that, or that's-
Yeah, what they
that's too big
expect
a
of you.
goal, but yeah.
Okay. What else? Yes.
So I feel like I'm often limited by my energy and my willpower. So like I'm so focused trying to build all this stuff, and let's just say like my health goal might be, let's stop drinking on the weeknights.
Mm-hmm.
I don't drink a crazy amount, but it's like, beer, whatever, probably affects like the weight and everything. And I can't resist that at that point, because I've just put so much energy into everything else. But how do I save energy for like the other things, like all those different areas, right? Maybe it's like spend more time or go on more dates with my wife or something like that. Like I just don't have that energy at the end of it. It's like maybe I'm being too ambitious.
Well, I think that all of us are on that journey in different areas, so thank you for sharing that, because I think that you have to understand, there's no sort of like, you know, the Matrix, take this pill and you're there, right? I think that we have to work through those things, but I think what you have to understand is that we get in a relationship, we have kids, I mean, and we also do fall back into some of those patterns. And some of those patterns are okay. I mean, I know this weekend I'm gonna be in Ottawa, and I don't drink scotch a lot, but I will be drinking scotch with my dad, because that's his thing and that's our boys' thing. And I'll feel like a little crummy the next day, but that's how it is. But the fact is that how is that playing into the bigger play at the end of my life? And for me, relationships, even relationships here, relationships I have with Irene and Phil, even though and with Dawn, as much as they may not be as frequent, that's a big part of the threads that weaves through my life that's important. So I think you have to prioritize that in your own context. I can't impose for you what I am. But the good thing is you called yourself out on it. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Growth is not possible with you calling yourself out. Because I'll tell you, I come from a family, I come from an East Indian, West Indian family, a whole bunch of doctors, dentists, lawyers, accountants. I end up being the realtor. And I'll tell you that when inspiration and motivation doesn't work, guilt and shame is extremely effective. So I was brought up with a lot of guilt and shame. Oh, you need to get this degree, you need to do this job, you need to do that. Like it's run through in my family. Right? So the fact is that they have a very good job of overlaying their life on your life, and then you look back and saying, I gave up my free choice in that whole process. Right? Am I making any sense, guys? Okay. Hopefully I'm talking. Irene brought me here because it's like I'm going to the core with you today, okay? So I only have 2 hours. So I'm going to spend some time here. And I want this to percolate, because the lead gen sides, because I find that this is the stuff that's kind of everybody wants to figure out, right?
Yeah.
So why did we get there? Why did we get there? How did we get there? What made us get there? I've identified a couple of points, and I want to explain them to you, and I want it to percolate. Okay? So in our business, we saw the stats on TREB. Okay? So how many number of people are doing most of the money?
10% less than that.
Yeah.
Less than that. So we're actually in basically 5% are making 95% of the money.
Yes.
Okay? So here's what's happened. You don't get paid a salary. You're not getting paid a salary. And maybe some of you that are in admins or whatever, that's okay, that's part of it. But this is also going to be related towards you, because you have to understand this. Our industry doesn't get paid a salary. You have to go and you have to perform, and then based on that performance, that's how you get compensated. So it's not like this ticket. So even more so, there's a separation in our world around equality. Now, I'm a person who's all good for equality, but you also have to understand the world is not equal. The world, the high achievers, the people that will do that will control most of the opportunities and things like that. So everybody has a fair choice, but there's only going to be a certain segment. So right off the bat, you have to look at yourself as 5% of the people out there, not 95% of the people out there. So part of the issue is that you're always comparing yourself to everybody else. Stop it. You ever see that Bob Newhart thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, play that bit. Stop it! Like for everything. Stop it! Right? So what you got to understand is that many of the people around you, they actually want you to stay the same. Now, how many of you thought you were going to get a lot of business from your family and friends? And how did that work out for you? I'll tell you why. Because what happens is that in the continuum of life, if we look at this as now, you have the past. So what happens is that when you suddenly start to change careers in real estate, whether people know that 5% are doing 95%, I think most of the world says, oh, that real estate thing, may look easy, but I hear horror stories or whatever. So the thing is, the fact that they know you don't even actually start at 0 with them. Sometimes you start at -10, sometimes you start at -20. Okay? Because they're like, oh, because they had a friend or they had somebody else who tried real estate and they tried it for a year or two and got out of it. So they're not willing necessarily to take a chance on you unless you came from, let's say, another background where you had a lot of track record and success and they knew that you would do it right away. But the fact is that you normally need to change the perception of the people around you because in some way, I'm not going to say this in a verse way, they're expecting you not to do well in real estate because that's the norm of the 95% out there. Do you know what I'm saying? So don't blame them. It's just they're expecting you, oh, how long is this going to last? And especially if you've been a personality that's flopped around jobs a lot or whatever, oh, this is the new thing. Oh, how long is this going to last? So are they willing to recommend you? Are they willing to do this? So understand that many of around you want you to stay the same. Now here's the other part of it. Once you start to do well, you're going to notice that they may actually interact with you differently. You know why? Because success and calling, as much as we say that as an academic exercise to all of the people and us growing up as kids, find your calling, be successful, be authentic. We have these words that we've interlaid as almost this common New Age part of what's correct for us. But here's the issue. When you actually do that, it's kind of confronting to everybody else. Do you know why? Because they're part of the 95%. Ask yourself, the people around you, do they, I love my job. I'm going out and making it happen. They're sitting in their office, they're doing this, and they could be successful in their own way. I've got two cousins who are dentists, both extremely successful monetarily wise. One loves what he does, the other one just does it for money. And the other one who does it for money, he's probably one of the best wisdom tooth specialists. Like he removes, because he's got big hands and he plops out the back and he's got all the machines and everything. He's so good at removing wisdom, he hates it. He hates it, but he's become extremely rich and wealthy because of it. And as a result of that, it's affected his relationships, it's affected his health, it's affected everything else. So the fact of the matter is that we may view success just monetarily. My other cousin, I go on fishing trips with him and he's like has dental magazines because he's like infatuated with implants. And honestly, he's one of the best dentists in the city. And he doesn't do it for the money, but he's also extremely wealthy. And he doesn't have health issues and he doesn't have this. So you also have to understand that if you practice something enough, you can become a master in something that you don't like to do. And look at our parents. They've mastered something, maybe even done it at a high level, even got paid for it, but their heart's not really into it. Now here's what you have to understand. In the last 20 to 25 years, our world has changed so much around transparency. We go on Facebook, we go on social media, we're so much, so everybody knows everybody, everything about everybody else. So there's no privacy. As a result of that, we actually have to be that much better than the previous generations because we're now held to a higher level of standard and accountability because of exposure. So what we were able to hide and get away with, it's not working anymore. And so what you're going to find is that when you start to become successful and authentic, you're going to find that there's going to be a separation between the people of how they interact with you. Some of them are going to embrace it, and some of them are going to give you resistance because they want you to stay the same. Because what that means, it's very confronting to them when you actually achieve your goals and are successful because they're not in their lives. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's at the core of survival. So it's in the mechanism of survival because we're biological. My dad is a doctor of science, so I always studied this way. The other thing is that when we as Canadians were taken over, the British did a really, really, really good job through properness, and they put like a nice little accent in there too. It's like, don't talk to strangers. So they almost beat us into the colonialism of us not wanting to talk to strangers. So what happens, as good old Canadians, not Americans, as much as KW has an American base, we're not, but we're Canadians, we're KW Canada. But the British here, not the Americans, made us feel that if we ever went out and spoke to somebody, we were bothering them. So whenever we go out and we actually door knock, or we cold call, or we do this, we're sitting there with the queen and the king of hundreds of years saying, don't talk to strangers, why are you bothering people? It's not proper, right? And so what happened is that there is this whole thing around not talking to strangers as a protection mechanism. So in other words, we all came from tribes at some place, doesn't matter what tribe in the world, we all came from a small place if we rooted back, and that whole place is that if you looked differently, if you had a different color, then maybe those were invaders that were gonna come in and do something to you. So there is an inherent survival mechanism around protectionism, around seeing somebody different, that's built into us as small. But later on, as we grow in to adults, as we grow in, this protectionist mechanism should not be there. In fact, again, the reverse is true. The 5% that actually go out and make a point of talking to strangers and to doing this actually build a greater network and a greater sense of being. Here's the other thing. What also happens when you talk to strangers?
Because it helps you as well,
Okay.
not just talking to strangers as far as making a business relationship.
Yeah.
Makes you confident.
So let me ask you a question. How long have you been in the business?
4 years?
Okay, so were there some certain family members or friends when you first got in the business that, maybe it's not like they weren't supportive, but,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so here's what you have to understand.
Oh, real estate.
Yeah, oh, really, exactly.
Good
Got
luck.
it, right? So
Yeah,
here's what
thanks.
happens. Now, don't blame them, but understand what I taught you in the first thing. You have a past with them. So they're thinking about you as your past. You're talking to them now, but they relate to you, oh, that's the guy who used to, we grew up together and we did this, and oh, I know stuff about you in high school, and we, did that, like all that story. So this is all filled with story. Understand this, is when you talk to strangers, there's none of this. They only have now and future. So what happens is that when you actually go in and talk to people, there's no past. They don't know you from that kid or that person, that previous job. So what happens is that when you are talking to people, in psychology it's called static projection. So people are viewing you a certain way based on what's comfortable for them is viewing you a way in which they know you. Based on the now and the past. But if they don't know you, all they know is you for now and what it could be.
I actually do much better with strangers than I do.
Exactly, because there's no history there. So what happens is that when you talk to strangers, you actually are living in the now and the future of what you could create with them. And what that does is that actually moves your conversation forward. Because in the past is the past, and the future is all about what's possible with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's why you're going to find some of your best clients and friends are either ones that you've only just met new, or I'm going to challenge you right now and say your best client, your most profitable client, your best business opportunity, your most profitable alignment is a person that you're still yet to meet. Right? And if we follow Gary Keller's hockey stick, if we just trudge along and do the work, at some point it goes like this. And that's in all aspects of your life. It's all aspects of your life. Okay? So talk to strangers. You'll get your life out of it. Talk to strangers. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Use your common sense, but be out there intentionally talking to people. The other thing is that conversations disappear. And there's no greater time than now of when you actually have a conversation with a person and it's disappearing quicker and quicker and quicker. And partly what's also happening too is that we've got these $1,000 computers that we're looking at all day, and it's rerouting the way that our synapses are working. So our actually retention and our reticulating activity is actually getting shorter and shorter and shorter because we're pausing less and less and less. So what happens is that if I have a conversation with you about real estate, literally 20 years ago, he would wait a week, he would wait 2 weeks, or he would remember that throughout the year. But now it's like, if I don't get back to him in 15 minutes, he's already over to the next person, and we could have had a really great listing presentation conversation, but if I don't follow up and in his ear even more so, he's forgotten about who I am. We are morphing a society of where everybody has ADD. We all do. Put up our hand, call ourselves out, we all have ADD. And that's what we, good, bad, right, or wrong, that's what's happened. So what does that mean from your perspective? If you were doing a 1 call or 2 call or 3 call a year, if you were sending out some information to them, and I'll talk about that when it comes to systems, you're actually going to have to touch your clientele base and touch people more often. Just for you to be the conversation in their mind to choose you. Because I'll tell you, if you're not keeping that conversation alive, and understand this, that this is actually a principle. This is a principle and this is a law that works in other things. If you're in a relationship and you're not saying, hey, I care for you, I love you, the feeling of that emotion tied to that relationship starts to dissipate. So understand that keeping the conversation alive of having fun in your life, having love in your life, building a home, or giving back to the world, or affecting kids, as much as you may have that as a goal, you need to speak about that and talk about that. You had a goal of 800? Hey, listen, we all know now. Okay? No, but part of what happens is that it's not to put you under pressure, but if you don't declare it openly and it stays as a secret, and a lot of you guys are secret agents. People don't even know you're in real estate. So if you don't declare it openly, then you haven't put it out there. And I think that we're all a little hesitant because we're nice Canadians and we want to sort of be humble and everything like that. But if you have goals, openly declare them in front of people, because what that will do is that you'll find that not only will you focus more on it, but other people may come around and help you with that. Help you get there.
I would love to help.
Right? And that's how it is. So what you have to understand is that and at the end of your life, what's going to happen is that your life is an accumulation of these conversations. And so when we look at it at the end of our life and we say, well, what would people say about me? They're going to sit up there in front of you and they're going to say your eulogy. And what really is the eulogy? The eulogy is really an amalgamation of probably 20 conversations about what your life was. So how do you want to write that story for you? And if you want it to write that way, what do you need to do to keep those conversations alive? And that's what follow-up is. And most of you are great at getting the appointment, and most of you are great at actually doing the appointment and meeting with people, but you suck at the follow-up. Right? So when that person doesn't call you back, or when you see that listing come through with somebody else, you say, oh, Dave, oh my God. And then what happens is because we all have trust issues from here, we all, oh, you know, that person, I knew it, I could feel it. And then you start to find self-validation around all the curmudgeon that made you who you were and not who you need to be. Right? It's a dance, it's a dance.
Because like it's so true. Those are like the same facial expressions and the same noises that we all make.
You know why? You know why? I'll tell you why. In the past, I played. If anybody plays instruments, in the past, what it does is that it's your past is actually contained in your body, and that body along with your mind. So in other words, what happens is that when they look at you that way, what it brings up for you, unless you do the work, is like it's when my brother beat me in that and he looked at me and like, oh, I'm better than you. Or when when your mother, your dad, or your aunt, or your uncle, because here's what you have to understand. as human beings, the two basic things that we need is self-validation. Okay? We need self-validation, we need recognition, and we need to belong. And so what happens is that as much as we may have come in really good families, like I have a really, really great family, but oh my God, are they dysfunctional at the same time too? Right? Because that's the way the world is. The matrix is both. Here's what you have to understand. You have to love this world for everything that it is and everything that it isn't. You can't go, the world is not a buffet. I just take this, I take this, I take this. If you are playing the game, you are playing the whole game. So you have to love for everything that it is and everything that it isn't. You can't pick and choose. So in your life, you have to understand that a lot of us had amazing upbringing, great people, good people, and yeah, we had challenges. We can't let that take the airtime. But also what happens is that when that person looks that way at us, and we don't feel that we belonged or recognized, and that brings up our past because we went through all that stuff, don't make it mean that. They just said no. Move on. You'll get a yes.
Sorry, Tammy, I missed what you were saying. It was self-validation. I'm not sure if you said and get along or what it was distracting.
No, so self-validation,
Yeah.
recognition,
Yeah.
and belonging.
Belonging.
Belonging. We want to belong to something. So now, so what happens is that when somebody says no to us, that we're not listening with you, we can't make it mean that we're not good enough, we don't belong. We just have to look at what could we have done better. The other thing too is that to increase your rates of yeses in your life, you have to go through more no's. And if you think that it's going to be an equal opportunity in this business, you are wrong, because you have to look at yourself as the 5%. But if you look at yourself as a 5% and do what the 5% does and take up with 90, you will make way more money than 95% that are out there. And if that's not what you signed up for, I know Service Canada's hiring this week. Have you ever been in the license renewal line? I'm not trying to mean that to demean anybody, but I'm just saying to you is that there's lots of great jobs where if people don't want to be challenged and they want to fit in. Here's what you have to understand. Whether you thought about it or not, I hate to say this, but if you got into real estate, you signed up for a leadership position. So if you say, well, I'm not a leader, don't have that, I can't, well, I'm not saying that you, listen, here's the deal. I'm actually not the greatest match for a team leader. I'm not the greatest psychological match for an agent. I'm not the greatest psychological match for even an operating principal. I've got 600 agents. I got 6 offices. I sold 108 houses when I was 21 years old. I was the #1 agent. But here's what you got to understand. I may not be the perfect match for anything, but if I have the commitment and the willingness and I execute, you can master stuff that you are not even interested in if you repeat it and do it. That's the gift of life, that's the curse in life. So what you have to also understand is that because you're not getting paid a salary and because you have to go out there and hunt, whether you like it or not, you signed up for a leadership position. So if you're not willing to step into that, you have to ask yourself, well, I just wanted to sell some homes, and well, yeah, well, you're taking care of the biggest single asset that people are ever having to do. When you really look at the amount of hours, like in this price point down here, when you really look at the average listing or average sale, you're probably putting in about 30 hours on average. The commissions, I'm going to be just really, would you say it's 20 grand here? So 30 hours times 20 grand. So divide that in, 20 grand divided by 30 hours. What's that? Huh? $700 an hour. If you can go get $700 an hour someplace else, do it. And here's the deal, you only have to do it for 3 or 4 hours a day. But we struggle at even that. Do you know what I'm saying? So just understand you're in a gift here. Don't take advantage of it, okay? Yeah, real estate's a primal urge. What's that? What else is a primal urge? Eating. Sleeping. Sex. Yeah, I heard it.
Sleeping again.
Sleeping again. What's real estate? Shelter. Shelter. See, what you guys don't even realize is your higher calling is that you're not an agent. You're actually a facilitator in the transferences of people's shelter. So what you have to understand is that within housing, within any primal need, if you muck with somebody's food, don't they get a little cranky? If you muck with somebody's sleep, don't they get a little cranky? If you muck with somebody's, doesn't that like make you weird a little bit? Right? So you muck with people's primal urge, they're out of whack. So here's what you have to understand. You're the actual absorber. You're the shaman of the lifelong experience of what they have in that house. So you know that little old lady that you're working with that you know is going to sell, it's her, and she invites you in and you got to stay for half an hour and have tea and crackers and she's so nice and you've been dripping on her and talking to her. Yeah, you're looking like you've got one of these ones in your database, right? For the last 3 years. So what happens, she's so nice and you know that she's going to probably be moving into a nursing home or she's, so what happens is that suddenly she says, yes, we need to sell. And you guys agree on the price and you guys agree on the commission and she's very good and she loves you. And suddenly you look at the home and you have to stage the home because it's a little bit outdated. And so you have to now pull out the closets and say, ma'am, we're going to have to clear all this stuff out. And suddenly the little old lady, so beautiful, becomes this tyrant. This tyrant, because everything in her closet, everything in her home, all the decor, she takes it as a personal ascent. And because of that, what's coming up for her is everything that happened to her in her entire, there's no future for her. Her future is very small, very little. This is all that's overlaying that. And so you're having to sit there and you're part stager, you're part psychologist, you're part cleaner, you're part negotiator, you're part legal person, you're part this, you're part that. In fact, I don't know if you signed that you're part schizophrenic, right? All of this types of stuff. You're like multiple personalities. Yeah, that's a realtor. So what happens is that you're absorbing all of this energy. And suddenly she's undone because this is the last sale that she's ever going to make. So what you have to understand is because real estate's a primal urge, you actually are absorbing the multitudes of all their energy. And don't sit there and say, oh, that little old lady, she's really, really mean. Don't judge her for the weeks or the time because this is probably the most stressful time in her life and she's not herself. Just understand that you need to care for her and you need to help her along that process. So you can't take it too personally. But you still have to stand your ground and have your value proposition and do what you need to do. But on the flip side, like the burly old biker guy who's got the yoga mat on the back of his motorbike? Suddenly he's like always aggressive. Find me a play, find me a play. And then you show him this downtown condo and he starts to weep and become like a little baby. So he becomes undone in a way that's like, just, I'll pay whatever, just what do I need to do? So you don't know how people are going to be in this, and don't judge them because of that time, because this is it's like taking your food away and you not eating. You're not necessarily yourself all the time, because it is primal. So look at this as the fact that this is a very honorable role that you're doing, and you're facilitating in the transfer of their shelter. And being a great agent, when you understand all of these things, every time I go to a course, doesn't matter whether it's you go to Dale Carnegie, you go to MAPS, you go to Family Reunion, you go to the Korea Conference, the NARA Conference, you go to personal development programs like Landmark, you go to other stuff that's going on. You always notice there's a whole bunch of realtors in there all the time. It's always real estate people. And you know what I find is that because real estate, and you find successful real estate people in these classes, because what I've noticed about successful real estate people is that they realize is that because in order to be successful, they've had to navigate so many different things in their life, and they've had to overcome those challenges, that actually what they end up being is more self-actualized. So one of the things that you actually will understand is that the more and more that you actually sell real estate at a high level, you begin to see more people, see more cultures, see more situations, see more breakdowns, see more upsets, see more good stories. You almost see everything and you become almost like wise in that process. And I noticed that a lot of, and I want to be very honest with you. If I was to sit down with each and every one of you, I would just say this. And I'm just going to look at let's look at what's mostly. If I was to look at you, most of you are probably in pretty decent health, maybe have a few things here and there. Most of you have got some really good people around you, maybe not all, but some good people around you. Most of you, you know, are good-hearted and want to make a difference. Most of you are smart. The only thing that we maybe need is a little more money. But pretty well, your life is pretty good. If I just could make a little more money, because money means a little more freedom and quality of life. That I could give back more, that I could provide more. So when you really do an inventory of your life is already really good. How do I get it to great? And in this business, one of the primary ways is just make a little more money. If you guys made 100 grand more, would that have helped you guys? Would that bring some good things into your life? The ability to do some things? So just look at yourself and say, hey man, I've got a really great life. Like, I know I've been through all this stuff, but you know what? It's okay. I'm better than most. And in Canada, you are better than most. In the world, when you really look at it that, you are better than most. So the fact is that all you need to do is probably just make a little more money. And with that, you can buy nannies, and you can buy health club memberships and personal trainers, and you can buy support, and you can buy vacations, and you can buy a few other things that will help you. So, and I'm not saying that I'm a materialist, but I'm a freedomist. Wouldn't it be nice for you just to be able to craft your life up and where there's no barriers for you to want to be able to do things? But you need some money for that because life is expensive. It really is. Okay? What stood out for you of those things that I said just now? What really resonated with you? Mm-hmm.
That what we do is very honorable, and I think even sacred.
Sacred, it is. Come on.
You said make your vision larger for the future than the past. That really resonates.
Well, you shouldn't be having a vision for your past. Your past is your past. You should only have a vision for what your future is going to be. And be grateful that now you have the tools that you've learned in the past to help you get there quicker. Mm-hmm.
That as a realtor, we have a leadership position, and that anything is achievable with commitment, willingness, and execution.
Everything. You know what the interesting thing is? Have you, I'm just going to let you in on the secret. Have you seen some of the successful agents in our industry? Oh my God, they're not so brilliant, are they? In fact, to the point of where we're way more talented and way smarter than they are. However, they're committed and they can execute.
Want to sell your home? 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 Hey, great. Is tomorrow at 4 or 5 better on Sunday? We're good. Yeah? Okay, no problem.
Do you know what the thing is? When you really look at some of the most successful realtors in our industry, some of them are not that smart. And we're way smarter than them, but we live in our head. We live in our head. The real estate that we're in is between these two ears, and we can't get out of it. So we're living in our head with all these things, but we don't go do anything. They just do. And then we're wondering, how did they get so successful? Don't you get that? It's actually kind of funny.
It's not fun.
Tragically funny.
But don't you get what I'm saying? They're not anything special, but they do it. What else stood out for you?
The primal instinct and reminding yourself that it is a very sensitive time for people.
Yeah, extremely sensitive. So you have to have a lot of empathy. You have to have a lot of compassion. But you also have to be able to steer them, right? Because understand, this is a leadership position you signed up for, right? So you have to be able to do that in the way, like the shaman. You have to steer them, listen to them, but also steer them and pull them along. Yes?
And then your point about having more conversations. If I hide always, think I hide, but that's the way it is behind text and email, and oh, I'll wait, and then I can control a conversation instead of just picking up the phone, or even like knocking on the door.
I think it's but in the new world, Donna, it's a combination of both. Text and emails and voice messages and video messages, that's a support. But you gotta pick up the phone and have a real conversation every so often, right?
And not feel like you're interrupting.
Right,
that's
exactly.
Yeah.
It also comes from the space and the energy. And I believe that this is where scripts and dialogues and doing things like your rev up and getting in and making your calls in the morning, you've got to also understand that people judge you within 5 to 7 seconds. You're judged. And so if your energy is off, I know we all have family and kids and struggles, but you have to be able to like wipe that away in a second, take a deep breath in, and within like 5 seconds. And partly the time is it's just how do you say hello? If you're saying hello, like I know people who knock doors and then it's like they're bracing themselves, right, for the no. Right? Or they go into a listing appointment and they're worried about, oh, they're going to ask me about commission, oh, they're going to ask me about commission, they're going to ask me about commission. That's called transference, by the way. Your mental transference actually gets into the ontology, the way of being of other people. So the more that you're thinking about commission, they're going to ask you about commission. If you're not thinking about commission, you're just thinking about value and pouring into these people, you find that a lot of times they don't even ask you that. So you have to take some deep breaths in the morning, and you got to make that first call and say, Irene, how's it going? You know what? That's half of it. It's just in 3 seconds. Hey, what are they going to do even if they're in a cranky mood? Irene, it's Sunny Daljit. I haven't talked to you in a while. It's part of your projection. Understand, you're still in sales. Right? All right. Anything else?
I like the grid that you put on there, talking about your past, and like, well, I mean, it applies to the little old lady as well, where she has nothing really to look forward to.
So you have to help her paint that.
Yeah.
So you have to say to her, so, you know, my dear, listen, I get that this is great, but here's the thing. You know, like where you're gonna go? There's gonna be some other people your age, you're into bridge. Like my mom's into bridge now. She's like hanging out with a bunch of, like my mom's older now, right? So she's in a community now where she's got like 50 people, and like, I'm actually going to a bake sale I'm going up there on Friday. It's like, I don't take my mom out for lunch, I go to the bake sale. And I'm telling you, like, you bake, it's like, seriously, I'm chow down on the bake. So anyway, so we go to the bake sale and they play bridge, and she's got community. So you have to help them understand this, is that, you know, that guy who's going into the condo says, you know, listen, hey, this is the condo for now, but this is a really cool place for you to hang out and really build your stuff. And, you know, should at some point you decide that you're gonna have a family or not or whatever, then, you know, we'll get you, this will be a great investment that'll go up, and we can help you get to that single family home or that semi or, you know, wherever. You've got to help paint the future for people. Do you get what I'm saying?
There's some agents that do that really well.
Yeah, it's visioning. So what you have to understand is that the new world is not about you being, the new world is not you being an order taker. It's not you being a functionary, it's you being a fiduciary and you actually being a visionary. You have to have the vision for people. Kind of what I'm doing for you right now as I'm teaching you. I'm showing you what's been going on in your life and giving you a vision. We're gonna talk about lead generation in like half an hour. What's there to friggin' talk about? But if you don't have the vision or you don't have this mental space, it'll be like, oh, it was nice to have him here, but I kind of knew that already. Pick up the phone, make a call, get an appointment. Right? Any other questions? Anything that's burning right now that you're kind of like struggling with, that you want some clarity on? Because I see some people kind of like the wheels are turning.
It's the motivation factor of getting your ass to get that appointment.
Right.
Whatever,
So what's motivating you?
Whatever lead generation, when you choose.
So what motivates you?
I'd say, well, dollar signs definitely motivate.
Right.
But then it's also your surrounding family and relationships as well.
So what does for you specifically with around dollar signs, what do you see that can give you, dollar signs? Like what goal do you have?
Well, I mean, I've been through this, like I've gone through both, and I
Yeah.
understand the whole one thing, and I understand this is how you have to picture. It doesn't change the fact that when you're standing in front of a door, you still have that little person in the back of your head saying, oh man, they're just gonna tell you to go kick rocks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's life, right?
Mhm.
And that's our life, because we're part of the 5%. That's what you have to understand. We want to have what 95, we want to act like the 95%, but we want the 5% life. If you want the 5% life, you got to be the 5% and go through what the 5% go through.
You do it differently.
Listen, and believe me, I grew up in Ottawa. Ottawa's my hometown. My dad's a doctor in the government. My brother is a lawyer. I mean, I have a great family. My brother's a lawyer. He writes policy on Aboriginal issues.
Cool.
Do you know what? He has a job for life because nothing ever gets solved. He could never do what I do. He's an amazing guy, amazing brother, but like he can't handle, like, it is what it is. There's a place for him, and he's very disappointed in his career because he spent 20 years trying to make a difference in the Aboriginal communities and the policies that are out there, and he said nothing's changed at all and never will change. So he's very disgruntled, and he's a brilliant guy, but that's what he signed up for. And my dad was a doctor in the government, and probably a little bit better in that sense because he had a little bit more freedom. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, you've got to have, I believe that once you make the transition to real estate, and I'm just talking about choices in your life, you've made a choice that unless you're part of the 5%, you're going to be broke and you're going to get out of this industry.
Right.
That's it. So you made a choice by coming in and getting licensed. So whether you didn't know that, that's okay. But now you can re-choose today. Right? We have to re-choose today. And I think that happens in relationships. Right? Some of you have to re-choose your relationship over and over and over again. Because the person that you got into relationship with is not that person today. And you aren't either. But are they going to be the same person that you want to be with tomorrow? And I think there's a cycle of every 7 years that if you're not inventing 2.0 and then 3.0, and I'm not saying that they have to reinvent it that way, but the gap has to be healthy enough. And I will tell you one thing. In life and in business, the one who has the bigger and clearer vision of the future will always be driving. So if you're in a relationship where you're very clear about where you're wanting to go, but your partner is not, that's okay, as long as they support you in getting there. The difficulty is that some of you are in a relationship where the vision is big, but your partner's actually disabling you from getting there. And the gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And partly it has to do with they haven't done the work because their past keeps coming up. There, you got therapy all in one. Yes.
A few years ago, one of the LeaderCast events that I watched, the keynote speaker was talking about clarity trumping integrity, regardless of who it's coming from, and he used President Trump as an example, right? He said, the clearer you are on what it is that you're trying to achieve or do or relay, the better you'll be able to do it, regardless of what the message is and if it's full of integrity or not.
Well, here's the thing, and I want to just clarify this, and I don't want to be out of integrity, but I'm a big person on integrity, but I'm also, here's what you have to understand. Integrity, one of the core things about integrity is basically do what you say. But here's what happens. On the path of life, you're here and you want to get here. And you think it's going to be this way. So what you do is you say stuff that you think is going to be here. But in reality, it goes like this, 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 it goes like this. So a lot of the times you may be perceived as out of integrity because you said something that you thought it was going to be, but it didn't actually quite end up that way. But yet at the end of the day, your end vision was still the same end vision. So we have to also understand that being in integrity is being committed to what we think and not purposely, not purposely sort of being, I would say, hiding or trying to, you know, mislead people in certain ways, right? But what you also have to understand is that if the vision is big enough and the commitment to that vision is big enough and it's clear, you'll get to that on their level. Plus, integrity is also brings values based in. So in other words, you overlay the value, your own values on that person. I mean, listen, I'm not a big fan of Trump, and I'll say that, I don't want to get political here. I'm not a big fan of Trump at all. I think he's like he's done some terrible things about saying that. If you were to peel it all back and look at some of the policies that he's instituted, actually some of the policies have helped Canadians a lot. If he didn't make that pipeline policy with Alberta, we would be in an even worse situation in Alberta. So the fact is, you have to sometimes get all the drama out of it, and you have to sort of sometimes look at the facts and the evidences. I'm not a big fan of him because I think he's a terrible person around that, but he has done some things that will probably forward both us as well as the states, as well as he's also done some things that will take us behind. So sometimes you have to sort of like just look at the facts and just make those opinions in itself, right? Okay, all right, we are getting into this whole thing. Any ahas as we go into it? All right, so we're gonna finish this in the next hour because we started at 1:30 and we're gonna finish at 2:30. We're not taking any breaks. You got to get up and do this. So the master comes out in the old village, and he actually every day at 5 o'clock they have a discourse. So back in the old villages, the head of the village would always come down, and the master would have some sort of little discourse. It could be a long discourse. It could be a small thing. It could just be, hey, you know, whatever, and so forth. So this master, was just always on point. And these two young kids grew up around the master, and the father and mother, oh my God, the master's so great. And they even said, the master's so great, he's like our dad, he's this and that, but it's annoying that he's always on point. It's all just annoying, right? So they found, how can we actually show that the master is human? I mean, he is human, we know that, but the guy goes up every day, he always says the right thing, he's always kind, he's always giving, but how can we sort of prove he's real? So they came up with this scheme, okay? And the scheme was that they noticed that in the banyan tree to the right-hand side, right by where the ridge was cut into the valley where the village was this bird, and mama bird, and she just had 3 little baby birds, right? And that was in a little bit of a nest there. So they felt, okay, what if we ask the master openly? Because you're allowed to have open questions to the master that even are challenging. So what if these 2 young guys ask the master, master, what's going on in the tree? And if the master didn't know, they would say, well, maybe you don't know everything. There's this little baby bird and had some, this mama bird, and had little babies. And they would kind of get a little bit of a one on the master, right? So, he's bring them down to earth a little bit, right? Make them feel better. An interesting thing about that is that a lot of times people do stuff to you because they need to feel better. And it actually has nothing to do with you, but if you're exceeding, like my first point, you're making them look worse. So the way that they do it is kind of try to bring you down, because that's how they feel good. It's not great, but it actually is a biological thing. It is a biological thing that of them wanting to sort of bring you back in, because they're like, oh, it's like suddenly you go to this personal development course and your spouse, and you're going to a retreat for a weekend, and the spouse will say to you, Donna, are you still going to be with me when you come back? Because for you, they're realizing the gap is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and if you grow more, and they're not going to be around. So anyway, so they realized, well, that's not enough. We need to come up with something else. So they said, well, okay, what if we take one of the little baby birds and we put the little baby bird behind my hand? And I'll ask the master, oh master, what do I have in my hand? And he says, well, you have a bird. He says, well, then we won't get him. He says, well, do you really want to get the master? He goes, yeah, we really need to get the master. He says, well, let's ask the master if the bird is alive or if it's dead. And they said, well, the one guy says, yes, but if he says it's dead, I'll show him it's alive. And if he says it's alive, I'll squish my hands together and show him it's dead. Either which way, we're going to prove the master wrong. We got this, right? So 5 o'clock comes around. I know, eh? No, it comes around. It comes around 5 o'clock. Anyway, so master's there. It says, and he's out there, and one of the young teenage boys, and he's kind of the orator. He goes, master, oh master. He goes, what has happened in the banyan tree by the ridge? He goes, well, my son, I've noticed that there was a mama bird, and she's had three little beautiful chicklets. I don't call them chicklets, but whatever. So anyway, he says, yes, you're right. He goes, and master, oh master, what do I have behind my hand? He goes, I think you have one of those little baby birds that you've been playing with. He goes, and master, oh master, is that little baby bird alive or is it dead? And he looked at all of them and he said, that's up to you. That's up to you. So you see, today, you've learned a lot of things, you've percolated on a lot of things, and I want you to think about that, because at the end of today, before you leave, you're going to declare in front of everybody what's one of the one things that you're going to work on after you leave today, and you're going to do in the next 30 days. So I don't want today's class, as much as we're going and having a great conversation, I love your participation, but I also want you to know that it's not me doing it, it's up to you. You have to take one thing on by the end of today, because when I asked you that question at the beginning of it around the exercise, and I said to you, what has to happen that in 12 months from now, you're going to look back and say, awesome. And that's going to start today. That has to start today, okay? Because understand, you're part of the 5%. Okay, you part of the 5%?
Yes.
You're not part of the 95. And this is not some elitist club, okay? You're just part of the 5% because you've chosen to be in real estate. Because only the 5% actually are making money and doing head waves. The 95% out there, and you're gonna get all the other agents saying, oh, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Ask them to show, when they say that, ask them to show them your profit and loss statements. You know what I really realized? The agents that sell 2 or 3 or 4 homes, you notice they're the ones that are the chattiest, that say, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. So you know what I do? I actually ask them, can you show me your profit and loss statement? Well, what do you mean? Well, how much did you actually net at the end of last year? And then whatever figure that they tell you, I find it really interesting. I have IMS statistics, so I pull up their statistics. I had one guy walk into the office, he goes, I sold 30 homes last year. I said, oh, great. Well, you must have done a lot of new home builds. He goes, no, I didn't know new home builds. He goes, what did you do? He goes, I sold homes on the MLS. So I pulled up the MLS stats. I said, well, the MLS stats showed you sold 3 last year, 2 the year before, 4 the year before that. Where's the other 26? So whatever agents out there tell you, they're exaggerating, to be honest with you. Oh, I made $1 million last year. Well, no, what'd you make? Like, really? You find out they did pretty good. They probably made $250. Great. They didn't make $1 million. But it's really interesting when you listen to what 95% of, I hate to say this, I'm a big critic of our industry, 34 years in this industry, okay? Unfortunately, most of the agents out there are lying and they're not telling the truth. And that's problematic for you and I, but here's the deal. If you're part of the 5% that the public knows about, they're going to use you even more. Right? So we have to make that commitment to ourselves. So, what do you want to get out of today? What's the one thing that you want to get out of today? That if I could answer your question, or at least get you closer to that you would say, yeah, this is a good day. And maybe you got it already. What's one thing you want to get out of today? Donna?
Overcoming objections.
Overcoming objections.
You know, not letting that voice in your head commission, or they've already met with the number 1 realtor in the area and I've only done 2 sales, and that kind of thing. Just being more authentic in yourself.
Right, okay. So basically objections. Okay? Just that mindset around objections. Okay? What else?
For me, I find I have a problem with like conversion. So I meet people, I feel like I make a good report and it doesn't go anywhere because I don't know what I'm doing wrong anymore. So I feel like I just don't know how to convert someone from just a med to business.
Okay?
Does that make sense?
That's a very good net to equal dollars. Okay? Yes?
Maybe how you or some other agents just recharge from just feeling exhausted and dejected and, you know, something like that.
Okay, so you're talking recharge? Energy, sorry. Yes.
Implementing systems to help you manage the conversations you're having with prospects.
Systems. Okay, great. Yes.
Taking casual conversation and turning it into real estate. Without sounding like that's your only agenda.
Yeah.
Momentum.
We'll tie that into energy recharge, momentum. Okay. One more? All right, let's go through this with you today. Okay? Do you want to read this? So I think some of you know James.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if people actually knew how powerful lead generation was, they would do it. I think that deep down, they don't actually believe it works. The reality is that if they did it for just 4 months, they could take the rest of the year off and have more business than they knew what to do with.
So some of you may know James, and he actually is still, I saw him the other day, he's still grossing $1 million a year in his business. So what happened, he was working with PepsiCo, newly married, had a young kid, and because of the way that they did with mat leave, they allowed his wife's company allowed her to take off 4 months, and then they would allow him to take off 4 months. So he went to PepsiCo and said, well, hey, I've got this dual mat leave that the other company is willing to pay you for my 4 months. So what happened was that at the end of the day, he ended up actually being able to be covered by his wife as well as the family. And so he's like, well, I got 4 months. So he says, well, and he had his real estate license, and he decided he was doing it sort of part-time just to help his family and friends. So he says, well, let me go out. And so he started to build his database, he started to door knock, he started to cold call, he started to do all that stuff. And in 4 months, he made $360,000. So what happened was that and then he has to go back to PepsiCo after his mat leave, and he's like, he says to his wife, he's like, what do I do? She's like, well, you make, with bonus at PepsiCo and everything, you make about 100, 110. You got a base of 85, 90, not bad, but with, 100, like not bad money working for PepsiCo. But you just made $360,000 in 4 months of work. So he's never looked back. So he left real estate and went into full-time and still continues today to actually make over $1 million a year right here in Toronto.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just say that the lead generation translates to business differently for people who have a large database already, like big family, a lot of friends versus...
Sometimes, yeah, and I think that I'm not going to discount that. I mean, I think that James is very strategic. He's a very smart guy.
Right.
I think that he used a lot of his contacts probably within PepsiCo. He grew up in Mississauga, in Lorne Park. I own the offices in the areas that he grew up, because he's in my office all the time, but he actually lives downtown and works downtown. So he grew up in Lorne Park, and I think he was very good at keeping connections. But I think that what James will say to you is that a lot of his current business right now, he just went out and hunted it.
Yeah.
A lot of the business that he got, he just went out and hunted it, right? Also, you'd be surprised if you, like some of you who've taken Bold, like if you do 50 calls a day and you do that for an extended period of time. I was a cold caller, so I can relate to this. I was making somewhere between 70 to 100 calls a day, and I did that for 3 years. And I was 18 to 21. So I got on when I was 18, and I'm still studying at university, and still trying to finish my degrees while I'm working sort of 12, 13-hour days in real estate. So the first year I did 17 deals when I was 18. The second year when I was 19, I went up to 33 deals. And then when I was turning 20 to 21, that's when I went up to 108 deals.
Are you still going to school?
I was studying, I was doing my undergrad in urban planning and architecture from Carleton and Ottawa U, and I was enrolled at Queen's and finishing my MBA at the same time. So while I was doing all that, and then working cold calling.
Like you showing.
And I think I even had a girlfriend for like a year or two during that phase.
You had time for a girlfriend?
I don't know how I did it. I look back and like, how did I even do that?
Did you hire admin like right away at 18?
Do you understand? I'm 34 years in this industry, right? I didn't know. If I knew what I knew now, like I just worked hard. Like I worked at Canada Trust in a mall. So what would happen is the mall would close at 9 o'clock. And then I didn't live very far. And so what I did was I used to go after 9 o'clock in the mall, and the cleaners would be cleaning like the hallways and stuff like that. And then from 9 to 11, I would be loading, preparing the feature sheets. Back then, we didn't have all this digital stuff. I had to go take the photos, go to the 1 hour moto photo, glue stick it onto the feature sheets. Like,
that's what I mean.
I was my own admin.
You didn't hire a student to come?
No, so what happened was that after that, I realized I got somebody to help me do some of the administration, but I was doing all the database stuff. Yeah, no, it was like 17 hours a day. I don't know how I did it.
What was your database though, with the cards?
There was Maximizer. I had Maximizer, was a DOS-based database in an old Toshiba laptop. So Windows wasn't just coming out at that time.
Oh, you're lucky.
I know I'm dating myself. Some of you in this room weren't even born then.
We had cards. Right, Rolodex.
Yeah, so I used to write handwritten. I had a small printer. It was really cool. I had a little laptop, small printer. I was one of the first agents that I could just go into your house. I would print everything off, just on a little small printer. So it's pretty good that way, right? But now we've got like this. We've got DocuSign. We've got Dotloop. Like everything. I run all the offices out of here, right? That's basically the way it works.
Can you add one more thing to the list? Can you talk about maybe systematic, like targeted lead gen versus farming?
Okay.
Or something along the difference between the two? Or what, like under systems, something related to both maybe?
Okay, all right, we'll do that. All right, so let's go through this very, very quickly. So there's two forms of lead gen, okay? So the first one is called?
Prospecting.
Yes, so what does that really mean?
Cold calling.
No, not necessarily, it could be.
Sometimes.
Could be. Let me ask you a question, do you have a database?
I'm not an active agent.
Oh, you're not an
I'm a
active
team
agent.
leader.
Oh, you're team lead, okay, so I'm sorry.
it's
Sorry,
in a database.
okay.
I just asked you a question.
But you haven't, there's a database of agents or database?
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so the question would be, is that if you have a group of people, let me ask a question, many people in here have a database. When's the last time you called them? When's the last time you called them?
I'm always working on it.
Okay, so you can prospect your database. So here's what I find is as soon as people hear prospecting, they think cold. When I hear prospecting, I think hot and warm first. And then if I don't, then I go to cold. But here's the thing. Who's on Facebook? Who's on Instagram? Who's on LinkedIn? Okay, so add up all of your contacts on each of those, and some of them may be duplicates. Why haven't you called them? They know who you are.
You don't have all their phone numbers of the people that you're
Just
actually
message them.
friends with?
Just message them.
Yeah, I do.
Just message them, do your research. Here's the deal, you could go down and just get a dialer program and just randomly call people, or you could actually take some time and say, okay, every day I'm gonna prepare 10 people from either my Facebook, Instagram, look them up, find their contact information, and just call them up and say, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know, we're friends on Facebook, Instagram, I see we're together. I don't know, who helps you with your real estate, but maybe we could keep in contact and talk a little bit about that. I'll tell you one thing, they already kind of know you, so the chances is that your conversion's probably going to be higher. right?
For sure.
So if you have, I have like 1,981 friends in Facebook. I know that if I was selling real estate, because I haven't sold real estate since I started opening up the offices, but I know that I'd probably find 30 deals in there if I had to. Do you know what I'm saying? 30 deals times, it's 20 here. Mississauga, we're about 12, 15. Still, that's 400,000. And what would you do for 400,000? And you know what? Here's the deal. I want no's. I want no's. No, I got somebody. Great, no problem. You know why? Move on to the next. You know what I hate? I hate maybes.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know that in every language, every basic language other than English, so if you look at the early languages, you look at Aramaic, you look at Pali, Urdu, Sanskrit, you look at early Latin, early Germanic languages, you look at the way that languages were, even the old Hebrew languages, there's no should, could, would, try, maybe. They don't exist. For some reason, English got this, oh maybe. You coming? Oh maybe. You're either coming or not coming. So what in the world, you either do it or don't do it. That's why in bold they say there's nothing is try. You either do it or don't. So in other words, people say, well maybe. Well, just tell me. It's kind of like, you ever gone on a date and it's like, I'm sorry, this is like early, you ever gone on a date and it's like are we gonna go or not gonna, like it's like, have you ever kind of like been in limbo?
You know,
I think we're in this world of where we creating all this limbo. Like, say no, it's okay. Give them permission to say no.
I always said when kids came over to our house and they said, would you like some juice? Sure. I said, what is this, a yes or a no?
Yeah.
Sort of like, yes, if I have to, then
I
I
know.
will drink it, but I...
So I know we're trying to be polite, but here's the deal, and it's not like you need to be aggressive. Just say, hey, you know, and ask them. Well, do you like realistically? Like, no, actually, my brothers are real. Great, sounds good. Move on. Here's the deal: the more no's you get, the more yeses you'll get. That's the principle. So get through the no's quickly, and you should know right away. It's an energy. Boom. Just get through those doors, get through those calls, get through the database. But I'm telling you that you probably have 100 people. 100 people in your social media accounts that you have never spoken to. And if you don't, Kirby Chan will. I've hung out with that guy and he's up at 6 o'clock in the morning and he sends 20 messages out on Facebook to random people and he gets an appointment every day. Random. He says, I'll test it with your Facebook friends because we're Facebook friends. I said, okay, well, Mississauga. He's like, hey, Sonny, I just got an appointment in Mississauga. I was like, that dude, and he's not even one of my agents. He works for Marvin, even though Marvin and I are partners, but it doesn't matter. So it's just like, it works.
But he does Facebook prospecting, like that's
Yeah,
the thing,
yeah, he does Facebook Hi, it's Kirby Chan. I see you're friends with this, and he's really cool. I see you're friends with this and that. Would you there's some really cool things going on in the real estate market. Can I give you a call and let's chat about it? Yeah, no problem. Then he calls him up. Hey, is this? Yeah, we're actually thinking about. Okay, great. Let me come over and take a look at your house. Every single day he does that. He's done by 8 o'clock. I took him up to Ottawa with me one time, and we have Marvin and I have a condo there, so he stayed and was like, I was like, what are you doing at 6 o'clock in the morning, Kirby? He's like, he's doing all this stuff. He's already got 2 appointments for the day. Lucky he's married to Carrie because she does all the work. She's lovely, by the way. So anyway, but it's good. So prospecting is really going out and actively reaching out. Okay? The ship doesn't come in our industry anymore. Now, what are the 3 goals of prospecting? What's the very first thing?
Business.
So what's the very first thing?
Appointments.
Appointments. So here's the thing that you have to understand. The less you talk on the phone, or the less you talk with people and just ask for the appointment, automatically your conversion is going to go up. So I'm just going to say I don't know anything about you or your business, but here's what I'm going to say to you, especially with people that you know. Try to just get the appointment. Say, hey, you know what? Great question. But when can I just come over and let's just have a chat or let's meet face to face? Here's what you have to understand with conversion. 50% of conversion is just you showing up with them. Even if you're not prepared, even if you don't know, but the physical connection of you sitting down for an appointment. So what you have to understand is conversion is not a technique, okay? Conversion is a process. So the process is don't talk long, ask for the appointment, and show up. You've just increased your conversion rate just by showing up. Okay? Most people, what do I need to say? The problem is that they're gonna ask you some stuff on the phone. Well, you know what? I'm kind of tight on time this week. Yeah, you know what? We're all so busy. But just, give me the price or tell me what, you know what? Let me come over, take a quick look, and then let me sort through, because those are good questions. And I can't really give you that information unless we sort through. When would be a good time? Do you know what I'm saying? So understand that, follow the process. I find that most people start talking real estate on the phone, and price and the market and this and that and so forth, and your conversion rate's just gone down the dumps.
That's a good point, I think.
Yeah, I do that too.
Ask for the appointment. When you're door knocking, okay, I used to circle prospect around a lot at my open house. So I was an open houser, circle prospect 150 doors. So I start knocking the doors, I take a feature sheet, I invite them to the open house. And then when I ask them, then what I do is I ask them, I think I want to sell this house, and I'm going to have probably a list of buyers looking for homes in the area. If I could bring you a good price for your home with an acceptable closing date, would you consider an offer? Right? And some of them would be like, well, maybe. So I get some leads that way. Huh? Maybe. Well, maybe. Well, but here's what happened. Some of them will want to invite me into the house.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Come and see what or you knock the door. Oh, come and see what I've done. But here's what happens. You do that. What's happened to your other door? Lead gen.
Right.
Gone down the door. The little old lady. So I said, hey, you know what? Oh, I'd love to do it, but I got to get the Miller's house sold this weekend, and I need to get to the rest of the street. Why don't I come back tomorrow and we can sit down? So I would actually book them into the next day and me get through, right?
Right.
And here's the deal. Even the tire kickers, the nosy neighbors, they are the best people to have on your side because they know everything about everybody. They may not buy and sell with you, but they'll tell you everybody who is going to buy and sell with you. So it's like, the nosy neighbors, the tire kickers, I love them all. But just say, you know what? I got to get through because I got to get the Miller's house sold. Your neighbor, I got to get the feature sheets out to the neighborhood, but I'm going to be back in the area. Can I come and see you on Saturday at 1 or Monday and just book them in like an appointment? The issue with most of you is you talk too much and try to use all your fancy stuff.
Yeah.
When can I come and see you?
It's true.
And I guarantee you, you set that appointment, that's half of your conversion. Half of your conversion is just booking the appointment. Okay? And it works with agents. I've recruited over 2,000 agents to Keller Williams in the last 18 years. And I'll tell you, I can call any agent up and 80% of the time I'll get an appointment with them. But I'll just call them up and I'll just basically say, hey, Donna, I was talking to Irene Kashansky. She says you are amazing, and goes on and goes on and goes on about you, how amazing you are. And the fact of the matter is that Irene's going to bug me if I don't actually meet with you. So here's the deal. You got 15 minutes. I want to hear a little bit about your business, and maybe I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm up to. Always get the appointment. Simple as that. You sit down and I ask her about her. How you doing, how you doing, how you doing, how you doing, how you doing. Now that's the only thing. That's where you need to take the listing, clinic, or everything else. Most of you start going right into your presentation. You need to spend the very first time. So here's what's going to happen. If this is the timeline of 1 hour on your appointment, and this is the client, so this is you, and this is them. The first 30 minutes, this is how it looks. They're talking, and you're doing very little talking. Why? I told you very first, people want to feel validated, they want to feel recognized, right? They want to feel that they belong. Because their mother never listened to them, their brother never listened to them, their spouse never listened to them, their family members never listened to them. And so what happens, you're going to sit down and you're going to basically say, so Donna, you know what, before we get into all this real estate stuff, tell me a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about you. So what's important? You know, tell me, so you go through that whole thing. We say Ford, family, occupation, what do you do for recreation, what do you dream? But then you go through and you say, so what's important to you in an agent? What's important to you to get them talking? Because here's what you have to understand. That's the part of that presentation is what you're doing is you're building connection with them. And then they feel that they're important. And when they feel that they're important and they feel that they've been heard by you, you now have a bond with them at a deep level because they feel that they've been heard, that they belong, and that they've been validated. Also, what happens when you do this? When you do this, price becomes less of an issue. Do you know what happens when you go in there? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to charge you. I'm the best. So they sit down and you spend a half an hour and they're talking most of the time. They're like, great. So you know, and then you do the shift. So let's talk. So what happens is that the last 20 minutes is more of an equal conversation. Maybe a little more slighted towards you, where you're talking now and they're talking now. And then the final close is maybe you're talking a little bit more than they are. And that's all your stuff. Do you know that the new gold listing presentation, you can do that in 15 minutes?
Oh, that's nice.
And it's all downloadable in PowerPoint. What do they need to know about your 22-point marketing plan? And this is what everybody's, does everybody put the sign up on MLS, virtual tour, 22-point marketing plan, put it on social media? You sound like every other agent. So what's happening is that you're leading with this in your discussion. This is what I can do, this is what I can do, and you're talking most of the time. The meeting's done, like you're not gonna convert them. Well, you may, out of obligation because of your friendship. But they're not going to go. So your 1 hour buyer listing presentation needs to be them talking the first 30 minutes mostly and you asking questions. And I know it's not your profile type because you're like, you want to talk and you got all this great stuff. And I'm going to call you guys out here. You know why some of you don't do your listing, your lead gen? Is because your presentations suck. And I'm going to tell you this, I learned this in the mastermind. I was part of a mastermind, and Kevin LaRose will tell you this. He's part of a mastermind with him, with Barry Cohen, with Jay Miller, with Paul Zammit, with Frank Leo, with Dan Cooper, with the Wright sisters.
Where's this?
A mastermind, and Sam McDaddy. And they all had to do their listing presentation. And it gets hosted in our basement at Port Credit sometimes. So they all had to do the listing presentation in 15 minutes. And I'll tell you, they are masters. They are masters at the listing presentation. But here's what they realized. None of them have an issue. They don't do it picking up the phone. You know why? They are so good at their presentation, they want to show it off. See, here's what's going to happen. You make an appointment, then you're like, oh shit, what do I do? Because you haven't practiced your presentation at a high level. So let me ask you a question. What if you got your presentation and Bold's got the buyer and listing? What if you practiced and you were just masterful at it? Do you not think you'd have different energy when you pick up the phone because you'd want to show it? Yeah. But you guys are flying by the seat of your pants. And you want to make $400,000. And some of you do make $400,000 flying by the seat of your pants. Woo-hoo! Who won that lottery? Yeah. Yes.
By listening to them, there's a couple of agents here who do really well.
Yeah, I know.
You hear that they have other contacts, and it's like, oh, my cousin knows your grandmother's boyfriend's daughter, and you immediately go to report that way.
I'm just saying to you is that you, and I'm not criticizing, because here's the deal, I'm not criticizing in a perfect Pollyannic world. There's many great agents they're good people, hard worker, good-hearted, and they may not be the best at it, but people get that. But just imagine this. If you were to up your presentation, and how would that change your dialogue? You would actually look forward to actually doing your appointments.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I'm saying? So look at it at the end result. Like when you get so good at the actual presentation side, and see, here's the thing, the presentation's happening here. you're just asking them questions. This is human relationship stuff. That's the problem, is that we're not doing this piece. Right? And that's what you have to understand.
Quick question, so this mastermind group, so do they present their listing presentation on paper, or is it through iPad?
It's unfortunately, it's kind of ultra exclusive because
Okay.
we've hosted it several times. Your GCI has to be over 3 million to be in that group.
Mhm.
But it's pretty interesting because I hosted at Port Credit and they brought me in a couple times that I have privy to sit in some of it. The other part of it is that I coached some of those people. So because I was a big agent back in the day, some of those agents like Barry, I coached him for a couple of years.
Mhm.
Yeah. So stuff like that. So and you know what? Here's the thing. In that level,
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, at that level, none of them are looking to make more money. That level, none of them are looking to make more money. They're all looking to find more time, and they're all having health or relationship challenges. Like they've mastered the money in the presentation. So like they're just real people. They're just real people. Yeah. Okay, so if you get the appointment now, so let's role play this. I'm sorry. James. Okay, let's role play this, James.
Yep.
Say so basically so let's just say I'm circle prospecting. So so you open up the door. We're circle prospecting,
Yep.
and I've got the Miller's home next door to you. Said hi.
Hi.
Nice. Hi, I'm Sonny Daljit.
Nice to meet you.
I'm the listing agent for the Millers next door. I wanted to give you the feature sheet. And I just wanted to let you know we have an open house this weekend between 2 and 4. And I'd love you to come by because, hey, listen, help me pick your neighbor. What we find is that some people may know some people who want to buy the home. Do you have any idea who would be interested in buying the Miller's home?
Gosh, I don't right now. I don't know too many of the neighbors here, but I can't say that I do.
Okay, great. Well, listen, if you do, let me know. You've got the feature sheet. I'd love to have you come by the open house. By the way, you should see what they did with the fireplace. So basically, never ask them directly if they want to sell. Ask them if they know of somebody who would be willing to buy the home. They'll serve themselves up earlier. Then what you do second, pick a feature in the home that's actually, it's kind of unique. Oh, you should see what they did with the fireplace. I don't know if you've ever done that, but maybe come by. You create curiosity around that. Okay? Right. And you know what? I think we're going to get multiple offers on this, James. And because this home's got all kinds of different layouts, I know I'm going to get a list of people looking to buy a home in the area. Have you thought about selling your place?
Well, we have thought about it. We have a cottage up in Barrie. We're thinking about, my wife's gonna retire, and we're thinking about maybe moving up to Barrie at some point. We don't know when, but we're thinking about it.
Okay, so no obligation at all because I want to make sure I get through the rest of the neighbors, but could we pop by and maybe for 15 minutes when I'm in the area, because I'm going to be next door, let me take a quick look at your place and at least give you a valuation so at least you know what it's worth.
Is that gonna cost me?
No valuation, no obligation, not that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I'm going to be by on Saturday. Would Saturday at 2 or 3 work better?
3's probably better.
Great, awesome. See how that worked? Now, it's not as easy as that, but if you get the activity, then what happens is that if I didn't get an appointment with him, then basically he says, no, he said, would you know of anybody else that's thinking about selling in the area? Right? And then if I decide that I like James, and this could be a guy, James, would you mind, I know you're not selling right now, and I know you, but I kind of connected with you. Would it be okay if I just sent you some stuff every so often about real estate and maybe called you once or twice a year?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Put them into your database and then throw them as part of your pipeline. Can't get an appointment, get a referral out of it, or decide if they're going to be something you're going to drip on in future pipeline. Understand this, repeat and referral is put in the exact same category. You hear that all the time. Oh, I want repeat and referral business. Is it equal? What's more?
Referral.
Yeah, because you're only going to buy and sell from somebody, maybe an individual client, maybe 3-4 times in their lifetime. But you can actually get a referral out of them almost every year in the 25 years. So in fact, whether they buy or sell, and that's the problem with some people who come into this industry and do really well right at the beginning, and then they don't do so well later on. I'll tell you why. Because when they come into the business, at least maybe the first 5 years, they get a lot of appointments, and they've got their energy and they've got that newness about them. And also what happens is that within the area of, there's stages of your database. So what happens is that when you look at it, you've got the first-time home buyers. Okay, so first-time buyers, you normally sell them 2 homes within 5 years on average. So you sell them a home, they stay there for 2-3 years, then you sell them another home. Right? So if you had a lot of people in this category, you could have done a lot of business. But what happens is that after their second home, they're not selling for 15 years. So what happens is now you had some good years, but you're like, they love you and they want to use you, but they ain't moving for 15 years. And you didn't go out and lead gen any new more people in there. You've gotten complacent. So your database is stuck in a stage. Now, after 15 years, you're going to probably sell and sell again twice.
Sweet, so you're saying there's a chance of 15 years?
But you just got to go get some new people. It's like pool water. You got to add new water in, otherwise it doesn't balance itself out, right? So in listings, will help you pick up more listings and attract buyers. That's why in Keller Williams it's the 3 L's. Was leads, listings, and then leverage. So get the lead, then get listings. Because listings will put your sign on the lawn, and then you can circle prospect the area, you can open house, you can pick up other listings. They'll also attract buyers. Buyers, unless they have something to sell, won't give you more listings. So we always have a focus on focusing more on listings and listing orientation. Yes?
In a condo world, it's not quite as easy. You can't door knock. Yeah.
So I think that for
You can't
you,
open house.
yes, I know, it's limited in condos around the door knocking. So you have to really look at things like, you know, dropping mail into the building. You have to sort of leave some stuff there. I think that that's where more a direct marketing focus. I think the thing that you got to understand is that it's pretty cool if you can get a few listings and sales in there every year, but that's where I believe that traditional print marketing still works. In this group, what we found, and I'm talking about this big group, what actually Sam McDaddy found was in condo developments, his most productive thing when he has a building was just listed and just sold cards still work. But here's what happens. He sends out the just listed and the just sold, so they think it was 2 units that he sold when it was just only 1. So if he sells 5 of them in there, they got 10 drops on them. And then sometimes he does an open house flyer. So he says that traditional go into the box, it's expensive, but if I've got 5 units in there, I can get it to 10, I can get it to 15 units. And they see your face all the time and your name all the time. That's where that traditional drop may work better than the new ways.
It is expensive, you're
It
right.
is, but it's a return, it's an investment. Would you rather spend that on other stuff or spend that there? I mean, I have a lady in my office that's got 3 condo buildings and she got 20 units out of them this year. And literally it's like 1 building here, 1 building here, 1 building there. And I said, Geraldine, like, how do we get that to the next level? Like, she's become the queen of that building. So she started to drop and and you know, she goes to the front concierge and gives them wine and this and that and gives them their cards. And so, you know, gussies them up, and she hates all the other agents that come in because they don't pay. So every time comes in and says, is there a rental, is there a purchase? So she'll deal with the rentals because she converts the rentals into purchases. So it's like, it's all your focus and your energy about it, right? Cool. Any questions on this? Any ahas on this? This is actually yes.
You know that point that I stuck there basically, like personally, so I don't know how to get those new clientele I'm looking for, because I use all of my referrals, like everyone around me, so I'm stuck now. So,
You're stuck, I know.
Yeah, so how can I get...
You have to get new people in.
So...
You gotta go talk to strangers.
Okay then.
I know, which is kind of like, oh my God, I didn't know I had to do this in real estate.
I never had
Because I've exhausted all my people.
I know, I never had to advertise, I never had to do anything basically, right?
So you're the best kept secret. So you
Yes.
you didn't do, I'll tell you one of the things that I did, because I dealt with that in my family, was I did exactly what I told you what I was doing with it. I decided to market to my database. So what I did was that every time I had a listing, I sent out, so because you're producing a just listed card. You're sending it out into an area around there. I was very targeted. I sent it around to 500 around the listing, right? I didn't go thousands, I sent 500 because the research shows that if you have a sign on the lawn, 100 to 200 homes around you, somebody else's, 1 or 2 people are going to sell within the next 3 to 4 months. So I was very targeted. But if I'm printing 500 cards, might as well print 800 cards because it's the same run, and then I just mail them out to my database. So my database, so my family started to get a just listed, then a just sold, and then what I would do is I would kind of be a little coy. I would put the picture of the front of the just listed, the just sold, I would do a different picture. I'd show the backyard with the pool. So they didn't know. Listen, you gotta understand, people, and I'm not trying to be deceitful. Well, I'm just saying to you, I'm just trying to say, they don't know that, oh, you sold that home. Oh, you sold the home with the pool. Oh, you sold the home with the shed. It's the same 3 homes. It's just 1 home, right? But you dripped on them because what you have to understand, conversations disappear and you're creating a conversation, as I said in the beginning. So what I did was I did to my family, because I was like at minus 20 with my family, because I was like the black sheep of the family when I was young and did all the things in a very conservative Indian family. It's like, you don't do that stuff, right? So what happened was that they were like, I was the last person they were going to use when selling their home, right? So at the end of the day, it's funny how things have turned around. But I just started to say to them, send them stuff, send them stuff, send them stuff, send them stuff. So I would also question, if you've already exhausted those people, how come you're not getting referrals from them? Who do they know? Start asking them, being more intentional about who they know, right? Because there's going to be, I guarantee you there's 5 people in your database right now, 5. Guaranteed that if you call them, they'll have 5 people they know thinking about selling, which will end up with 5 deals. In fact, you'll probably end up getting 10 or 15 appointments, but there'll be 5 in your database right now that they know. You just need to ask them, right? And there's very honorable ways of asking. You know what? I'm so thankful my real estate business is growing. Listen, here's the deal. You go down to Chinatown, okay? You got three restaurants. Number 1 Chinese restaurant, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. They got 2 people in it. Number 3 Chinese restaurant, not so nice, been around for a long time. You know, they got a whole bunch of people. Number 2 restaurant, it's not that good. But there's people in it. Where are you going to go eat?
Number 2.
Here's what you have to understand. It doesn't matter how you look sometimes. It's that you're busy or appear to be busy. And I'm going to tell you, most of you are walking around with, I need a sale written on your forehead. Right?
I've had people say, oh my God,
So how's the market? You just lost them. Right? So what you have to understand is, even if you're having a bad year, what you need to do is that, listen, you know what, thank you so much, especially if they're a client or a past client or something. Hey, it's thank you so much, my real estate business is really growing and I'm taking things to the next level. And I'm looking to build a team, and even if you don't have a team, all of your goal in here is to have an admin, which means for you to have a team. All of you. Like if you're going to do that, you need to have an admin. So all of your goals should be to at least have an admin, and whether you want to add other, but if you have an admin, you have a team. So your goal should be, because you shouldn't be putting up the signs and doing this and doing that, you should be focusing on the client work, and I can show you the economics around that stuff. Plus, if you're paying more than $20,000 or $30,000 in taxes to the government, hire an admin, pay 0, and pay your admin, and you'll get some work out of them, and your production will double. So the fact is that, say, I'm growing my team, I'm building my team. Who else do you know that's thinking about selling real estate that you can help me get there? Pose it in a way of where, like, help me. You see, oh yeah, let me help, oh my cousin or whatever. You'll probably pick up another 30, 40 people, but the problem with you is that they're now stuck in this stage, so you need new people in. That's your only way out of it. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, second way of lead gen is marketing. If prospecting is active, reaching out, doing it, what's marketing? Passive. Okay? It's time saving, You can broadcast over a long period of time. It will cost money, so to do those drops, you can drop those buildings, boom though. It's gonna cost you money, but it's time saving. It'll work over a period of time. How long? How long, if you're gonna go farm an area, how long should you be farming an area?
At least 18 months.
18, so 2 years is the plan. So if you don't have the economics, now, you know, it's funny, most agents say, oh, I tried dropping an area for 6 months and I didn't get anything out of it. The fact is that the research shows you won't get any response for 9 months, and probably around the 16th month, you'll start to get a trackable response. So if you do not have a 2-year budget to do that, or start smaller and expand. So start with maybe 300 or 400 or 500 homes, and then expand once you start getting it, lead with revenues. But the fact is that you've got to look at this as almost a 2-year investment.
You didn't finish your sentence. If you don't have a 2-year budget to do that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you don't have a 2-year budget to do, don't do it. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that then you're just going to be throwing money out the door. Right? I would rather you pick up the phone or go out and knock people or do some stuff. So that's what you have to understand is that if you're going to get into farming, you're going to get into target marketing, you have to do it for 2 years minimum. And honestly, in 2 years it'll start to pay you back, but in 3 years it'll actually start to make you profit. The other thing too you've got to understand is that if you're looking at a target, there is a formula for this. You need to have a certain turnover rate. So if your turnover rate is not big enough within the complex or that area, you may be also throwing money away. So I'll just answer that question. When you're looking to target into a new area, let me just give you some quick parameters. You need to probably section off the area. If you're looking to farm, you can start with 500 to 1,000 units. That could be units, it could be homes. The best thing is if you're looking to expand down the road, that ideally you have 3 other adjacent areas that can add you another 1,000 homes. Because what we find is that somebody starts to farm a certain area, get traction, and they're making good money, then they can move to this area, move to this area that's adjacent. Okay? But here's the deal. When you're doing your market statistics, you have to have the ones that will actually produce you the most amount of money is you have to have a turnover rate of about 5%. Okay? That means there's a 5% turnover rate. Now you can go into the TREB board, look at the different areas, and there's a way in the back statistics that can show you turnover. If it's 4%, you're borderline. But if it's 2 or 3%, the problem is that there's not enough homes turning over. So as much as you may like, so I find there's a lot of agents that fall into areas that they really love, but there's not enough turnover. Okay, so first of all, 5% would be ideal or more, and that would be a conversation. The third factor that you have to look at is that you have to look at who are the top 10 agents in that area and add up their numbers and find out what market share. So let me give you an example. I live in Port Credit, okay? So that's where I live in South Mississauga in Port Credit. Everybody that joins our Port Credit office over the last 7 years, they want to farm Port Credit. Oh, I love Port Credit. Oh, Port Credit's in my blood. Great place to live, Port Credit, Lauren Park, Mineola, love all that stuff. But here's the deal. Port Credit, even if you add in Mineola, forget about Lauren Park, it's got a 2.6% turnover rate. Okay, and not only that, if you look at there, we've got Kevin LaRose, we've got Kate Peterson, we've got Teresa Beard. All 3 of them are in my office. The 4th other person that's come in recently that's been able to break in, and she's done it over 4 years, has been Corey Harding-Keys. So Corey's with our office. Then I've got Loretta Finney, then I've got Sam McDaddy, then I've got Matt Reagan, then I've got James Hodgins. Then I've got the couple from Sutton Group, there. So when I add up all their market share, and then I look at all of the other houses agents that are there, they're not even from the area. Like this area, if you did the stats, you'll find that there's a bunch of people that own it, and then every other one-offs are agents from outside because they knew that person. They don't live here, they don't sell here, but they just got that one-off sale. So for you to try to break into that market in 2 or 3 years with these guys, like, good luck. The only person that's been able to do it is Corey, and she's with us, and it's because she moved into the area, she farmed the area, she has an office in Port Credit, she sponsored the local events, her kids are going to school in the area, she's doing all that stuff. But honestly, like if you don't have a 5% turnover rate, you've got a bunch of really strong agents that are marketing out there, and your farm area is not big enough, like good luck.
Well, what would you say, like, so from 1 to 10, like, what percentage of market share should they have where it's like, there's good opportunity for you?
I think that what you're gonna find is that, here's the thing, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. If it's 1,000 homes, and it's 5% turnover rate, how many homes a year is that? 50.
Yeah.
Honestly, guys, like, if you're going after 3 homes a year, like, spend your money on something else. Or People Farm. Okay, this is the other one. People Farm is, I believe, much more effective. So let me give you an example. I coach 3 people. One guy makes $500,000 a year. He literally works maybe 20 hours a week. He's with my Ottawa office. And he has, now his wife was helping him, but now he has a full-time assistant. So it's just him, and he's got a database of under 1,000 people. However, he plays Ultimate Frisbee. His wife plays Ultimate Frisbee, and he has an Ultimate Frisbee kid. Now the Ultimate Frisbee groups in Ottawa, Toronto, whatever, are like, they're crazy. It's like it's like the CrossFit. It's like all the other ones. So here's what happens. What you're going to find now, yes, they buy all over. So he sells all over. He may have to travel. But the fact of the matter is that they literally, it's like, Andy, come list my home. Andy, come and sell me. Like Andy's like got the nicest life ever. So the fact is that you can actually focus on a people farm. That's going to be much more effective in your turnover because you have a common interest with them. Kathy Clark in my Central Parkway office, she's a painter. She actually paints. Most of the art, a lot of the art is Kathy Clark. But she's a $200,000-$300,000 agent, but like 80% of her business are other artists or people within the painting community. Right, so what you have to understand is that your people farm, Kate Peterson built her $2 million business in the hockey rinks in Port Credit because all of her kids played hockey. She's got the Zamboni. It's like crazy. The Zamboni comes out and there's Kate and Jeff's face on the Zamboni at the Cawthra rink, right? So what you've got to understand is that you're probably not capitalizing on a people farm. And my question is and the thing about people farm is they're a lot more interesting because you're interested in that stuff. Whether it be golf, whether it be tennis, whether it be from your local community, whether it be from your church, temple, synagogue, mosque, whether it be from your support groups, whether it be from health stuff, whatever. Ask yourself, where do I actually kind of almost have a farm? Simon Tam, he's on the Marilyn Dennis show on Fridays. He's with our office too. Great guy, former model, amazing guy. Does probably $300,000-$400,000 a year. About 25% of his business comes from a downtown group that plays Settlers of Catan on weekends. You know Settlers of Catan? It's a board game. He organizes these groups, 25, and they love it. Hey, Simon, I need a condo. Hey, Simon, I need to sell this. So the fact is that, where's your people farm? Because your database ends up being your people farm. On that. Okay? Good. All right, so how are we going to mix it up? We're going to go top dollar, mid dollar, low dollar, start with low dollar, mid dollar, top dollar. Don't go and take up billboards and stuff like that.
Can I take a picture of that?
Oh, you're going to get this. I'm sending this to you. Actually, Irene, they have this. You guys have this. This is where you can send it out. Okay? Now that was their quote. Philip and Irene are already here, so you can read that. Okay? And then we're going to talk about the database. So here's the thing about what you have to understand. The slide got lost, but on the suggestions of command, so here's what you have to understand about follow-up. So if you're using Keller Williams command, okay, you're going to see when you click at the bottom of all of your contacts, it's going to tell you 3 things, okay? So first of all, if you set them up, okay, on the neighborhoods, it's either every month or every second month. It may not be fully complete, but at least it's going out to them. You set it up twice a month, that's 24 touches. You set them up also on the actual monthly emailer, okay, that's going to produce all the statistics for you, that's another 12 touches. That brings you to 36 touches. You do a quarterly mailer to them, because if you don't have the budget, do a quarterly mailer to them. Okay, so that's 4 more touches, that brings you up to 40 touches, and then you prompt yourself to call them 4 times a year. Okay, that's 44 touches.
Once a week.
Huh?
It's almost once a week.
Yeah, well, but here's the deal, most of it's automated.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you just use command and set up those ones, now here's the deal. If you add out the birthday or the home anniversary, which is automatic, that brings it up to 46 touches. That's all you need for follow-up. So the question you asked around follow-up is that what you need to do is you need to systematize the follow-up around that kind of stuff, okay? So around the systems, your system is your database. And command is taking care of all that. You may not think it's perfect, but I'll tell you, if you just use that functionality, it'll work. And it's getting better and better and better. And when they launch the consumer app at the end of next month, it'll get even better. So start to use it, okay? My new iPhone's going to be better than my old iPhone. So don't think that like these days they just do upgrades to everything. Start using that, okay? So what you have to understand is that 33 touches the standard for your database, which basically means 12 emailers, 12 mailers, that's 24, 4 calls a year, right? That brings it up to 28, and then 5 other things that you do. If you do it under the new command system, it brings it up to 46 touches. Just use that, okay? And if you need some information on that, we can send you some stuff on that, but just go to command and just go database command touches. It'll show you how to set up all the touches. Neighborhoods, reminders, that kind of stuff. You can do everything in command, it's beautiful, okay? 12 direct is when you're farming in the area. If you're gonna farm or you're gonna do drops, you've gotta do it every single month. You can't do it every second month. But 12 directs are for those you haven't met, and they'll make you mets, and then you put them on your touch program, which will change into 33 touch, okay? One day if you want me, I can come back and we can do a little mastermind just on database stuff.
Yes.
And then I can bring one of my tech ladies and we can do some of the stuff on that.
Can we do that before 2020?
Just Irene and be able to do that, okay? Okay, questions so far?
I'm writing that down, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all being recorded, so you have to come back.
So on your objections around mindset, here's the thing. You know what? Mindset's a big thing, and that's going to take a lot of time. But here's what you have to understand: is that it's the first 5 seconds. The first 5 seconds of everything. Just make sure that you're present for the first 5 seconds. If you check out after 5 seconds, at least you probably got them in the first 5 seconds. So it's the hi, it's the hello, it's the hey, and be relaxed about it. Have fun with it. Most of you are too stiff. You have to have fun. I'm telling you, I would knock doors and it's like, how are you? And they think I'm crazy, but you know what? They're hiring me because I'm not like them.
They'll remember you because of that, right?
Yeah. Here's the deal, it's like, you know, it's like I would follow up with people and say, you know, you're really aggressive on follow-up. I said, hey, here's the deal. If you want me to sell your home, I have to make sure, I'm gonna do the same thing with every prospective purchaser that comes through your home. Do you want your home sold? So I may not be your type of person, but I'm your type of person to get what you want, which is the highest price in the shortest period of time.
Can I ask you a question? When you knock doors, what do you write down?
I give them a feature sheet. I will always knock door with a feature sheet.
Do you make a note? What do you make a note on to put into your database?
Well, I already have the street. I already ran geo probably on them. I've got all that stuff. I'm just going down the doors. Listen, I've been doing it for years, right? Just go down the doors. And listen, if I don't have a listing in the area and somebody in my office has a listing in the area and they're not doing it, I say, can I do your open house? And I'm knocking all the doors themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, people remember me. You know, he's kind of a little bit of a mix between Montel and Gandhi. And I'm telling you, and if you don't follow up, that Sunny guy, he's pretty charming. He's gonna go, you know, he's gonna take your business away from you, right?
I'm just wondering, so when you set that appointment, like you talk with them, you don't get their information and, like, you don't get their phone number, you don't get their email?
Yeah, I get their information right away. So in other words, if I'm door knocking, but here's the deal, it's like, if he's 2 doors down, I just kind of get his name, I can geo-warehouse him.
Right.
It's like I'm gonna pull all the stuff, and then I just, so what's the best number for me to get a hold of you for? Great, so I'm gonna come by Saturday, 3, here's my card.
Do you confirm with them again, or do you just show up?
Well, in the new world, if I had their email address, I always have a big thing for calendar invites. But a lot of times, it's like I'm coming by, let me give you your email address, so I'll collect the information and I'll send out a calendar invite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll put them in the database to get the proper information. Yeah. But here's the thing, you know, you could just have a pen and a pad. What's your name? What's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email address?
Yeah.
Listen, here's the deal. Ask them for their mobile number, you just text them. You're gonna get a way better effect out of text.
Yeah.
And the main thing, guys, don't get hung up on what, just do it.
Yeah.
And you'll
Just
bumble
do
and
it.
you'll do it.
Just
and you'll
get their
back.
name and their mobile.
Yeah.
Don't start going into this and that, and then they're gonna start asking you, what do you think, come on in? No, appointment, I'm coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Listen, just get back to the phone. See, here's what you have to understand. You're demonstrating to them, if they choose you, what you're gonna do. I'm selling the Miller's home. I gotta get to the rest of the neighborhood because I'm gonna get that open house rocking this weekend. They're looking at us saying, hey, this guy's on purpose. When they see you door knocking down the road, I've had people who don't open their door that have actually called me after. And it's interesting. They stayed in the home because they didn't want to answer the phone because I was there. But they saw me put the sign up, they saw me put the flag up, they saw me do the open house, they saw the amount of people that were there, they saw the sold sign. And they called me up, and I've had this just come list me calls. Sonny, you don't know me, but I live 3 doors down from the Miller's home. And not only did you sell our house in one day, you got the best of our price, but here's what happened. I watched you for an hour and a half, go up and down the street, talk to every neighbor, and next thing I know it, I saw a lineup of people coming through the home, and I saw it sold. You're the type of agent that I want, but I didn't have the courage to answer the door because it's not my type. See, how you speak volumes. Not only that, your seller's gonna come home, he's gonna see you knocking the doors, talking to the neighbors are gonna, hey, that agent, he's making it happen. When you have a sign on the lawn, you've got 5 or 6 days, you are the news in that neighborhood. After 5 days, if they don't hear from you, see activity, you're just another agent. You missed the opportunity. That's why I believe you need to circle prospect within 5 days of when you've listed it and 5 days of when you sold it. And here's the deal, I circle prospect homes that I've sold, that's not my listing. Well, I sold his listing, he's not going around. Take my little just sold flyer, right? Knock on the door, and I give it to him. Here's the deal, I'm giving to him the piece of paper plus the sold. Hey, my name's Sonny Daljit, I know that property was listed with Mitch over at Royal LePage, but actually I was the one who brought the buyer. My name's Sonny from Keller Williams. I've got actually other buyers looking to buy in the area. Have you thought about selling? Here's the just sold. They forgot about Mitch, you know? Montel Gandhi guy, he's pretty cute. Right? You know?
Now I can't unsee Montel.
All right? So this is how your business should be looking as a thing. 1/3 of your business has to be move up or move down or investing in real estate. There's another big thing. You guys have a lot of new builds, a lot of investment, a lot of stuff, condo stuff. So my question would be, is anybody in your database looking to buy something as an investment? And I'll tell you right here in Toronto, condo new builds are a great way to do that, because here's the deal, they only need a little bit of money and they don't have to pay for it for 2 or 3 years anyway. Now I know they're hard to get, but you can still get them out there. But my question would be, and some of them are they pay right away, they pay a second installment next year, and then they pay so I have agents, like I have one agent, she got $200,000 this year, she sold 20 of them, and she got $200,000 of that commission this year. It's not closing for 2 years. So who's gonna move up, who's gonna move down, and that's gonna be based on your stages, and then the other one is who's gonna invest. So 1/3 of your past clients, they're moving up, moving down in the stages. 1/3 of them are referrals. So these are people that are referrals, either from your past clients, either from your relatives, or your targeted influencers. The other thing would be other agents. So I'll tell you a really good practical way. If you're gonna take Bold next year, go take Bold in London. Go take Bold in Burlington. I'm gonna tell you that the agents that actually from Toronto that actually went out to Cambridge or London or Burlington, I know 3 or 4 of them are getting 2 or 3 referrals a year from that group. Because those guys aren't coming into Toronto for the referrals. So you may think it's convenient for you, but I'm telling you, there's a whole big agent base of referrals. The other part of it is that the referrals program in KW Command and KW Tech, that's been working for 2 years now. You guys should just take a concentrated effort to look on that map chart and say, who do I want in Montreal? Who do I want in Ottawa? Go across and then go across the states. I guarantee you, if you had 1 or 2 people in either of the major cities in North America, and then you personally contacted them, and you became their person for Toronto, 3rd largest metropolitan area now in North America, bigger than Chicago. We passed them 2 years ago. You don't think there's people from the States moving to Toronto? There are. So if you spent, just take all the major cities, let's say there's 50 cities, you got 2 or 3 agents. You're now in front of 100 to 150 agents.
And all 20 of us are doing that next week.
Yeah, but it's 2 different people, 2 or 3 different people.
Agents, right?
Look at the nice thing about when you do the research online is you see each office, you see all the agents. Then you can sort through who looks my type, who's this, and then you can look up all that stuff. Make a call to them. I'm telling you, what if you could add 2 or 3 more deals this year? And that could be maybe 4 or 5 more deals next year. That's the difference maker sometimes. Here's the thing. Some of you are 2 or 3 deals away from, oh God, everything's good again. Or 2 or 3 deals away from, oh shit, things are really getting tight. So those extra couple of deals make a big difference. When you're looking for new business, out of every 12 people that come through your open house, just look for the 1. Don't care about the other bunch of people. Do all the stuff, let them go through. Just try to find the 1, maybe 2 people. If you have 100 people through your open house, let them, just looking for the 1 or the 2. Have that focus, okay? And then on sign calls, you don't get as much, but you're finding that people are still driving around areas if you have a listing. Of every 12 people, what we're finding on ad calls, now ad calls could be if there's any online as well as traditional print ads, it's the same as internet leads. 1 out of every 20. The quality of internet leads are going down even worse and worse and worse. And you have to follow up around 7 times with an internet lead for you to actually get a deal out of them. But it's a numbers thing. It's no different. So for every 20 internet leads you pay for, if you're paying a certain amount, just make sure you're going to have to follow up 5 to 7 times with each. Most of the time you're not going to get a call back. So that's going to be probably about 130 calls. But there's probably 1 in there that's going to be worth $10,000 to $15,000. So just look at it as a numbers game at that time, too. Okay? Conversion. Don't talk. Go down. Ask them more about them. And then you need to work on your listing presentation. Have you taken Bold?
Yeah. Okay, so you know the new Bold? Did you take the new Bold?
No, I took it a couple years ago.
Okay, so the new Bold, you have the downloadable new buyer's presentation and the downloadable new listing presentation. You can do that in 20 minutes. Practice those two presentations, and then and there's an area, ask them a lot of the questions. There's a whole list of questions. If you go into KW Listing, there's about 20, 30 questions you can ask. Some of them are business related, but you need to get them talking and build a relationship with them. As much as they may be your friends, you need to sort of take more of a connection interest and then have a better presentation. And then you have to put them into your database, and you've got to drip on them with the 30 to 40 touches a year.
Right.
That's how you're going to get conversion out of that. Okay? Recharge. Based on your energy, I get up in the morning, you got to eat clean, you got to exercise, I meditate, you got to exercise. Exercise is the biggest thing for energy. Do you play any sports? Do you do anything?
Yeah, I run, yeah.
So you got to make sure you get your running in on a regular basis and sleep.
Sleep is extremely important. It's probably the most important thing for sleep. For women, because you're in this industry, exercise is even more important, but you need aggressive exercise because your body doesn't, so women, as much as they want to do, I get they want to do yoga and relaxation, that's actually okay, but it doesn't give you what you need. You need to do something like kickboxing, you need to do something aggressive for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So it's not your style, but I'm telling you, I've turned a lot of women onto kickboxing. It's the best thing that because they need to go and boom, 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 and they need to get it out. Men need to lengthen out a little bit, like running and other stuff, but women need hard, aggressive exercise. I love yoga and stuff, but that doesn't really bring up your drive. It kind of sort of dampens you down a little bit more, right? So you need to get out and you need to do something more active. But, I mean, you gotta eat clean, okay? More veggie stuff, lean meats, sleep, that's important. Exercise, that's important, okay? And you gotta learn how to turn off and you gotta turn this thing off because this is affecting your brain too, okay? Casual, what was that? Conversation, objections.
I was asking how you turn casual conversation and convert it over to real estate.
Everybody always talk about real
People
estate.
farm.
They always talk about real estate.
Here's what I'm gonna say to you. They're gonna wanna talk about real estate, but here's the thing. You spend 30 minutes just asking them about themselves. That's the best way for them to convert. Understand this. If I did it with you for half an hour in front of everybody, I would just ask you, about your life, about what's important to you, about what your goals are. Suddenly, after 3 or 4 minutes, you're gonna open up and you're gonna start talking. You're gonna feel connected, you're gonna feel validated, you don't have that. And the thing is, because we have no history, there's no past about, oh, this guy's untrustworthy or whatever. I'm taking a genuine interest. But you have to understand, you can't fake this, you have to take a genuine interest in people. If you're not interested, it's hard for people that aren't interested. You have to take a genuine interest. Once you do that, they're gonna open up about everything that's important to you. And then obviously, housing's a primal urge. They're gonna need it at some point. So you then have to decide at what point you're gonna do that. Right? Okay. Lead gen. Then brands, talk daily, build your profitability, have fun. I know I've run over today. But I want you to see, what's the one thing that you're going to commit to in the next 30 days?
In the next 30 days?
Yes.
Absolute block off 9 to 12 lead gen, 15 contacts at least in those 3 hours.
Good, good for you. And I'll tell you that that the first quarter's already started. As much as we're in December, like January, February stuff, if you're not talking to those people already, you've already missed the first quarter. You got to do that in the last quarter. Okay, what are you going to commit to in the next 30 days?
I have to really clean up my database and start touching base with
Yeah,
people.
more purposeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm gonna do exactly what James is doing, which is commit to the 15, but James, I can't do 15 because I'm still burned out of my house.
That's true.
Okay, so I'm gonna commit to 5.
We're here.
Okay, every single day.
Okay, good. What are you going to, before you leave, what are you going to do in the next 30 days?
I'm gonna go back to my past clients and then get the referrals from them.
How many people do you have in your database?
So many. It's been 9 years that I'm working with them
Okay.
continuously. But
If you can get between 300 to 500 people, you're going to make a $500,000. So I'll show you how to do it, but you got to if you get that up to 300 people as a minimum, and then 500 people after that.
On referrals or?
No, just in your database, but you have to have all their information. If you don't have their email, they can't get their email touch. If you don't have their call, they can't get the call. What I find is that people don't have complete information in the database. They just have 500 people, they don't have their email addresses. Well, how are you going to call them? How are you going to send them this? How are you going to mail them? So part of it is actually getting your database. I would rather you have 300 people with their address that you can mail them something, with their phone that you can call them, with their email that you can send them something, than 1,000 people with just their email addresses. Because you need to touch them in all 3 different methodologies.
Okay.
That's what actually gives you the return. One method alone it only gives you a certain response rate, but all 3 of them, the e-touch, the mail touch, as well as the voice touch, that combination is what keeps that conversation alive for you.
I'm so sorry, Fanny, I have to.
Yeah, you gotta go.
That
Okay.
grows a database too. That grows a contact list to a
Yeah,
database.
it's not a database, yeah. Okay, what are you gonna do next 30 days?
5 calls a day, and I'm going to set up an event.
Okay, Good. What are you gonna do?
Door knock.
Door knock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we doing our database and our business organization?
Yes. Okay.
Talk to strangers.
Talk to strangers.
I don't have my license yet, so I'm gonna get my license.
Good.
That's a start.
That's
Good.
a good one.
All right.
Start. 20 calls a day, cleaning up my database.
Okay.
I'm in the same boat as you.
Same goes you. And you guys in the back? Whatever.
I'm gonna add something too. I'm
Yes,
gonna master the
yes.
presentation to have that posture and confidence going into your lead gen and
Absolutely.
everything else.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, I'll send you this presentation. Thank you so much.